Two words. There are two words that I really hope you remember from the next hour of what you are about to hear. These two words should be included in every story about these shocking developments this week at the Secret Service. Now, these are two words that I didn't know last week, at the beginning of last week, but these two words don't appear in almost all of the coverage of what is happening at the Secret Service. The two words are James Murray. James Murray is the person who Donald Trump appointed director of the Secret Service when Donald Trump knew he was going to need the Secret Service for a lot more than protecting him from death threats. When Donald Trump made James Murray head of the Secret Service, Donald Trump knew he was going to need the Secret Service to help him hold on to the presidency. We will be talking about other things in this hour. You will hear from Stacey Abrams when she joins us about the ban on abortion in Georgia, which went into effect today. You will hear what happened in the Steve Bannon trial today, when federal prosecutors confidently rested their case after presenting just two technical witnesses. And you will see and hear the mother of the mass murderer in Uvalde, Texas, who was confronted by other mothers today, mothers of the murdered children. Telemundo captured that confrontation on video, and we will present it later in the hour. But we begin tonight with James Murray, the director of the Secret Service, who has remained in that position during the Biden administration, was actually chosen by John Kelly when Kelly was the Secretary of Homeland Security. The Secret Service is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Homeland Security, and Kelly believed that his friend, a retired Marine Corps General, Randolph Alice, was the kind of outsider that the Secret Service needed to take a fresh look at the management of the Secret Service, which does much more than just protect the president with its $3 billion budget. The Secret Service duties have always included policing counterfeit money, and now include highly sophisticated investigations of financial crimes involving electronic communications, which makes it all the more ironic, to put it mildly, that the Secret Service has lost the most important electronic communications in the history of the Secret Service. It is simply not at all believable, not even slightly believable, that the Secret Service got rid of the most important text messages in their history because no one there knew that those text messages were important. The breaking news of the night is that the Secret Service employees received not one, not two, but three separate notifications instructing them to preserve communications before an agency-wide technology replacement program went into effect in the weeks after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. NBC News is reporting, quote, the first email about preserving records came on December 9th, 2020 from the Secret Service's Office of Strategic Planning, and the second was in January 2021 from the agency's Chief Information Officer though a senior Secret Service official source didn't provide an exact date. The senior official said employees received a third email on February 4th, 2021, instructing them to preserve all communications specific to January 6th. The emails, quote, included reminders that federal employees have the responsibility to preserve their records and included instructions on how to do so, the senior Secret Service official said. It was James Murray's responsibility to make sure all Secret Service texts sent and received on January 6th were preserved, and he did not do that. Donald Trump never liked John Kelly's choice for Director of Secret Service, Randolph Alice. Director Alice struggled with something no Secret Service director before him ever faced: how to provide full-time Secret Service protection to a huge high-rise building in Midtown Manhattan where the President of the United States claimed that he still lived, but in fact almost never visited. The Secret Service budget for protecting that building was higher than the cost of protecting any other home of a previous president, And at the same time, the Secret Service budget was skyrocketing to protect Donald Trump on his constant golfing outings locally in Washington and in New Jersey and in Florida. Add to that the 18 members of the Trump family who were given Secret Service protection, and the protective budget of the Secret Service was quickly wiped out. When USA Today ran a story with the headline, "The Secret Service is going broke protecting Trump," Donald Trump blamed the Secret Service director. Donald Trump fired him in April of 2019. In her book about the Secret Service, Zero Fail, The Rise of the Secret Service, the Rise and Fall of the Secret Service, Carol Leonnig tells us that James Murray was not Donald Trump's top choice for his next Secret Service director. Trump wanted to promote Tony Ornato, the leader of his personal security detail, to director of the Secret Service. Quote, Trump wanted to make Ornato director, but Ornato said he had other plans and suggested to the president that he hire his good friend James Murray, a 23-year member of the service. Trump hired Murray after an interview lasting roughly 10 minutes. The president soon after promoted his loyal detail leader Ornato to a political role that was unprecedented for the nonpartisan Secret Service. At the president's urging, Ornato took on the job of presidential political advisor as the deputy chief of staff in the Trump White House. A 10-minute interview for his new Secret Service director. That interview may well have included the questions, who did you vote for president? Who are you going to vote for president? And do I have your complete and total loyalty at all times for anything I might want to do? This was the third year of the Trump presidency. Remember, in the first weeks of his presidency, when Donald Trump brought James Comey into the White House for a one-on-one dinner, Donald Trump was stunningly blatant about loyalty in a discussion with Comey, who he didn't even know and had no reason to trust. Donald Trump made it very clear to James Comey what would be necessary for Comey to continue as FBI director. James Comey tells us that Donald Trump said, I need loyalty, I expect loyalty. Tony Ornato had no doubt certified James Murray's loyalty to Trump before Trump's 10-minute interview with him. But we know that Donald Trump was not going to give that job to anyone who did not clearly pledge loyalty to Donald Trump. So we know that James Murray is a Trump guy in every sense important to Donald Trump, or Donald Trump would not have promoted him to director of the Secret Service. In April of 2019, all of the Democratic candidates for president had announced their candidacies, and polling showed Donald Trump running far behind Joe Biden, with Joe Biden at 51 and Donald Trump at 42. Donald Trump knew, just like 2016, there was absolutely no way he was going to win more votes than the Democrat. Donald Trump knew he was going to come in second with the voters, and his only hope was the Electoral College. And this time, Donald Trump didn't want to take his chances with the Electoral College. If it came to it, Donald Trump was obviously willing to try to change the outcome of the Electoral College, and that is exactly what he did, and that is what he was still trying to do on January 6th. Cassidy Hutchinson testified that Tony Ornato told her in the White House that Donald Trump tried to go to the Capitol on January 6th to join the attackers of the Capitol. Cassidy Hutchinson testified under oath that Tony Ornato told her that Donald Trump physically struggled with one of the Secret Service agents in the car when he was demanding that the car take him to the Capitol. The Secret Service deleted every text message about that incident in the car and everything else that happened on January 6th, including possible text messages about Vice President Mike Pence. Did Tony Ornato send a text message to Mike Pence's Secret Service agents at the Capitol telling them to take the vice president away from the Capitol? Did James Murray send a text message saying that to the agents at the Capitol to take the vice president away? Were Secret Service agents trying to remove the vice president from the Capitol for his safety, or were they trying to remove the vice president from the Capitol so that the vice president could not certify the Electoral College vote? There could be answers to all of those questions in the text messages deleted by the Secret Service, which could not have happened without James Murray's permission. Donald Trump knew that the Secret Service director that he chose in April of 2019 was going to be the Secret Service director on Election Day and was going to be the Secret Service director in the next Inauguration Day, and that the Secret Service director might be asked to do things that no other Secret Service director in history ever had to do.
Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me.
Whatever the specific words were in Donald Trump's 10-minute interview with James Murray before making him director of the Secret Service, the subtext of it was that line from The Godfather. Someday, and that day may never come, I will call upon you to do a service for me. Did James Murray do a service for Donald Trump by overseeing the deletion of all the Secret Service text messages on January 6th? The January 6th committee can answer all of these questions by issuing a specific personal subpoena to James Murray for his under oath testimony and a separate subpoena to James Murray for all of his Secret Service text messages on January 6th. Today, the Secret Service told the committee that they had found exactly one text that is relevant to the committee's investigation out of the thousands more texts that the Secret Service now says were deleted. Deleting those texts is a violation of law. James Murray knew that when he allowed them to be deleted. The Secret Service is one of the most sophisticated cyber operations in the federal government. The Secret Service specializes in investigating financial cyber crimes. The Secret Service knows what its legal obligations are in keeping electronic records, and the Secret Service violated the law. Attorney General Merrick Garland said today that the Justice Department investigation of the attack on the Capitol and the attempt to overturn the election will not hesitate in bringing criminal charges against anyone who they can prove violated the law. The Attorney General stressed no person is above the law. He didn't say Donald Trump's name, but that's what everyone understood that he meant. And that also means that no Secret Service director is above the law. When James Murray is put under oath by the January 6th committee, or possibly by a federal grand jury, he will be asked a long range of questions about the Secret Service electronic records protocols. He will be asked many questions about what happened to the Secret Service text messages on January 6th, and he should also be asked very direct personal questions. How many text messages did you, James Murray, send and receive on your Secret Service phone on January 6th? Who sent you text messages, and who did you send text messages to on January 6th? What did those text messages say? The Secret Service sent out a directive to everyone in the Secret Service to preserve all relevant text messages on their phones. Did James Murray follow his own directive, or did James Murray personally allow all of the text messages on his Secret Service phone on January 6th to be deleted, or did James Murray do that himself? Did he delete the text messages from his own Secret Service phone? Did the director of the Secret Service personally do that? Is that the service that he did for Donald Trump? James Murray was hoping to slip out of town quietly at the end of the month and start his new career in the high-paid world of corporate security. He is scheduled to begin his new job as the head of security for Snapchat in August. Whoever is handling the preservation of electronic records at Snapchat now is doing a better job of it than James Murray will be able to do. Here's someone who James Murray used to work with.
This is one thing and one thing only. This is an attempt to silence conservatives like you and I from communicating before the 2022 election. That's all this is. And it's a message being sent to anyone who supports Donald Trump either now or in the future that it's open season on you. It's hunting season for your private communications. Don't you dare talk about your intentions or coordinate or do anything to get a Republican elected again, because Liz Cheney will make sure that they subpoena you and make your life really miserable. That's all this was.
That guy was a Secret Service agent. Dan Bongino was a New York City police officer who then joined the Secret Service where he worked for 11 years while James Murray and Tony Ornato were also working in the Secret Service. Were they friends with Dan Bongino? Are they friendly with him now? Is Dan Bongino the public voice of what members of the Secret Service like James Murray actually think? There is a very serious problem at the Secret Service now. This is the worst crisis facing the Secret Service since the assassination of President Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963, and the director of the Secret Service has not said one word about it, not one word. There has been much justifiable outrage that the chief of the Uvalde Schools police force went silent after the mass murder at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. This is the same thing. The director of the Secret Service facing the worst suspicions that have ever been focused on the Secret Service in its history. And the director of the Secret Service, James Murray, says absolutely nothing about it. Not one word of explanation, not one word of defense, not one word of a promise to find out what has been happening at the Secret Service. We have never seen a problem like this at the Secret Service. There's a very serious problem at the Secret Service, and James Murray is part of that problem, or James Murray is the problem. Joining us now is Neil Katyal, former acting U.S. Solicitor General and an MSNBC legal analyst. Neil, this Secret Service story gets worse with every passing day, and part of what makes it worse every day is the silence of the director of the Secret Service.
100%, Lawrence, and I'm so grateful for that very long monologue you did because it was absolutely appropriate. This is frightening. It's scary. The idea that somehow the Secret Service accidentally purged all of these text messages strikes me as highly implausible, to use your phrase earlier tonight, not believable. I mean, we're talking about text messages with significant data trails. It's not like the Secret Service all of a sudden just started communicating via Snapchat. And by the way, how on brand is it for the Secret Service director, James Murray, to go and work for Snapchat, which the company is, after all, known for disappearing messages. And it seems like he's unfortunately pretty good at that. I do think we have to consider the timing of the requests and when the texts were deleted, because we obviously don't know, Lawrence, what happened here. But the fact that all these text messages were deleted after there were requests for them raises a bunch of eyebrows. I'm like growing a third eyebrow now just reading these stories. And, I think the most important point is we're not talking about some random guy off the street or your grandpa being bad at technology. The Secret Service agents are highly trained professionals in electronic communications. The idea that multiple agents all simultaneously failed to back up their data after receiving multiple warning emails and knowing the information has been requested by the Inspector General, I mean, that seems really far-fetched. So I agree with everything you said.
I mean, what happened to all the data in ongoing criminal investigations that they were conducting that have nothing to do with the presidency? They have so much jurisdiction that has nothing to do with the protection of the presidency. And what of that data was lost? No explanations about any of that. And Neil, even if there were no requests at all for the data on January 6th, wouldn't you, as director of the Secret Service, on January 7th at the latest, put out a directive saying, okay, everybody preserve everything that happened yesterday?
100%. A preservation order would be the most standard thing in the world to do. The fact that it wasn't done is very suspicious. And as you say, Lawrence, if they could do it here about January 6th, when obviously everyone knows the Secret Service, they were the folks on the ground guarding Pence, guarding the president, that's obviously relevant information. If they could delete that information, heaven knows what they can't delete. I mean, this is like, if they do this for the most significant investigation ever, what are they doing for the rest? And I'm very upset at the Republicans right now because these are the people who lost their minds over Hillary Clinton's server and saying, possibly data was deleted or something like that. Here we have an armed invasion of the Capitol. Some of the most important evidence in the investigation has now been deleted, and they're crickets. We're not hearing a word from them.
Neil Katyal, thank you for starting off our discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And joining us now, Claire McCaskill, a former Democratic senator from Missouri and an MSNBC political analyst. Also with us, Jill Wine-Banks, who served as an assistant Watergate prosecutor. She's an MSNBC contributor. And Senator McCaskill, we also learned today that there were count them, four House committees who requested this same data before January 6th.
So there are so many things here, so many layers. I was glad Neil mentioned Hillary's emails, because what is the irony here? Where is the leadership of the Secret Service? Why aren't they having a press conference to address this crisis in their agency? Frankly, why hasn't James Murray been fired? I mean, if you do not understand, these were government phones. These are people that are sophisticated federal agencies when it comes to cybersecurity. There is no excuse for this stuff being deleted, none. And so the assumption that is going to be made is there was really bad stuff on those phones. Now, can it be recovered? Some of it might be able to be recovered. But this story is going to have a long tail. This is not over by any stretch. There are some people that are going to be in big trouble over this.
Jill Wine-Banks, your reaction to this and the way it gets worse every day, which is just a stunning thing. You think it's as bad as it can be, and then tomorrow there's more information about it.
Lawrence, you laid out a really good explanation of what's going on. And it is getting worse with each passing day that silence remains. First of all government records have to be preserved. You can't just randomly decide, I will get rid of them. And the fact that the Secret Service, who has the technical expertise, could possibly have accidentally lost these records is totally incredible. It's so incredible. You know, I look back on the days of the 18-and-a-half-minute gap in Watergate. And this was a 2-day gap. That's 144 times longer. But it's also obviously deliberate. There's no way, I think as Claire said, you can't believe that this just happened by chance. It had to be done deliberately, and if it can't be recovered, it was done by real professionals who could get into the cloud and delete all other copies of it, the to and the from. And the fact that it was just on those 2 days is really suspicious. We know from Watergate, from the Chief of Staff Haldeman's notes, that the missing 18 minutes were exactly the time that the conversation turned to Watergate. We know from the timing that January 5th and 6th were days when there would have been a lot of messages about protecting or not protecting the president and the vice president. And I think not enough attention is being paid to what was going on with the vice president and the fact that it was possible that the Secret Service was going to whisk him away at the direction of James Murray, and 2 words that I won't forget, I promise you, Lawrence, that they were going to whisk him away, never to let him return to fulfill his constitutional responsibilities to oversee the counting of the ballots. That's something we need to know. Who made that order to get him out of there? Was it James Murray? Was it the president to James Murray? Was it the president directly to Ornato? We just don't know. And the good news is agents can be called to testify. There are witnesses to every single one of these communications. The best evidence, of course, is the text messages. And the quickest and easiest way to get the information is from a compilation of text messages. But with a lot of time and diligence, both the committee and the Department of Justice should be investigating this. And it shouldn't be just the committee. These are crimes. The Department of Justice has an obligation to act on this, as does the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security.
Claire, there's a line that's attributed to Keith Kellogg in the White House on January 6th when there was a discussion of moving Mike Pence and moving him from the Capitol. And Kellogg is quoted as saying about the Secret Service, if they take him out of there, they'll take him to Alaska or something like that. And it's a line now that has much more resonance than it has in the past. Why would someone in the Trump White House in that position believe that the Secret Service was in Donald Trump's pocket and would be part of disrupting the actual certification of the Electoral College vote.
And why was Pence so adamant about not going with him, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about what's going on in Pence's mind. Because if Pence believed this was just about his safety, I think he might have gone, even temporarily, to another location. But you have to think, maybe Pence was thinking what we're thinking, that there is an effort here to get me out of the building and keep me away from the building so I cannot certify these votes, because that's obviously the goal of the day for Team Trump. And, you know, the sad thing about this is that all the institutions that Donald Trump has degraded during his time, you know, I remember thinking of the Secret Service, the times I've been around them, and I've been around them many times in my career, how reassuring it was that they were not political. This is real, serious, permanent, corrosive damage that has been done to this institution. There needs to be a cleanup here. There needs to be a new set of management. There needs to be a new set of ethics. And there needs to be a recommitment to this agency not being political.
Claire McCaskill and Jill Wine-Banks, thank you very much for joining our discussion tonight. Thank you. Up next, a few hours